Okay, sure enough, sure enough, it is odd that I am blogging about some girl's booty, but I think that Nicki Minaj puts her booty out there for people to blog about. You know, we went through the period of expanding black booties. You can even literally look at it through the Jennifer Lopez to the Beyonce and the Thick Thigh Sisters to today's monstrosity that we have, that is Nicki Minaj. I think that it is no secret. Plenty of young girls have told me that Nicki has had surgery to enhance her booty, and why it looks so exaggerated and unnatural. I was in the ghetto the other day, and I saw a girl who had a booty like that. I was like, oh my God, and it just reminded me of that saying, ghetto booty. You know, you got a ghetto booty, and so now, we're all standing here as thinking, intelligent adults, and we know that genetics and diet have everything to do with this, with the size and shape of your booty. So, you know, we all know about the ghetto diet, the processed foods, the high salt, the high fat, the high calorie, low protein, low vitamin, low mineral content food that people feast on. That's even characterized by this place where I saw this ghetto booty. You know, there was a Rally's fast food restaurant next to a gas station across from a Walgreens just on this corner. And this is, and down the street is a meat store, and people, you know, consume a lot of snacks. Just the sheer amount of snacks that people consume and consider it food. And I would even consider a burger, a greasy burger, and fries and a pop, a snack. So think about that kind of ghetto diet on top of, you know, things like, and I'm not saying all people in the ghetto eat this, but soul food on large can be very, well, can give you that kind of booty, hence the ghetto booty. Um, so I don't need to just go through pig's feet and chitlins and all that kind of stuff, because I know everybody eats that, and pig ears and pigtails, but there is stuff that people do eat, and the way that the food is prepared, and the lifestyle that people lead. You know, how far do people walk in a day? How much energy do people just use in a day? And so, of course, you get more and more women who get bigger, bigger, bigger. And of course, the way we're shaped, a lot of our weight goes to our bottoms, and so you have these ghetto booties. And the versus, you have more men who are, or at least on the whole, involved in more labor, more physical labor, working more outside the home, doing less childcare. So at least having that staving, you know, that energy off for some people, for some amount of the population, but clearly not enough. And so then when you put it Nicki Minaj in that context, then you look at that. Okay, so you have this, you know, kind of muscular. I mean, I look at the guys who built the house for my family member right here. And, you know, they're all, you know, Nile, Congo looking, you know, strong, muscular, hot, out here in the sun dudes. Or you look at the guys who are along the expressway. I mean, in a sense, the consumer culture has long since fetishized the labor and laboring body. You even think about Madonna's video, Express Yourself, where she literally has, you know, men strapped doing work. And the irony, of course, that we came to see in the 90s now is that the models who portray the laboring men are not actually laboring men, even though they may come from those classes. But they're actually like people who just go to the gym and look, you know, and then shave their chest and shave every bit of, you know, other sign of masculinity from their bodies. And so you have fetishizing that way. And so they're kind of effeminized because they've rendered, you know, juvenile. On the other side, you have this, you have this juvenile thug, you know, the black thug character, this ghetto booty, you know, that desires this ghetto booty, that sings about this ghetto booty, that raps about it. And so then you go back to the largest consumers of those images, and it's not people who look like that. It's sure enough, there are people with ghetto booties that consume Nicki Minaj, and they consume, you know, 50 Cent and other thugs. But to go multi-platinum, those booties have to be sold around the world, and largely that platform was here in the United States, white youth, crossover youth who see, you know, black people in that way, who see the other in that way, and it allows them to consume that. But that these figures are juvenile figures, cut-off figures. You know, this ghetto booty is a sign of her diabetes and heart disease, frankly. You know, and it's just interesting that the pain, you know, what I was saying earlier about the laboring body, but now you also have the prison body and the prison muscle. These are the things that are fetishized. and our dominant culture. So when I look at Nicki Minaj's body, I'm seeing that, that's what Lil Kim, that's what they play on, is this idea of the hood, the raw sexual being, the voracious sexual, just monstrous power that, us consuming people can just take a bite of, like just, take an apple and just take a chunk of it. You can take as much as you want. You can take it or leave. You can throw that one away. You can get another one, and that's pretty much how we relate to those icons. And so when you do have black youth who also adore, and I mean adore in a very religious and very spiritual sense, adore these figures. You have, and I'll just close with this example of my cousin and I sitting, in his mother's parlor, watching TV One, a black channel, and the show Unsung on the group Arrested Development. Now, the irony is that, I pursued, times and our cousin lived together. Our cousin and I lived together. Our mothers are very close in age, close to each other. We've become a very close-knit family. So, in many ways, we're very much like brothers, and yet our lives are so different. Because he listened to Too Short, and I listened to groups like Arrested Development when they came along. And even earlier, I looked for, more critical rappers, and even the dominant mainstream ones like LL Cool J, who were in some ways counterculture, or as they would tell, remained true to the roots of hip hop instead of selling out to the consumer culture and becoming the thug, becoming the monster that the consumer culture wanted to see. Because be sure that thug is cut off. That prison muscle is a 911 phone call away. Get up and get down. 911 is a joke in your town. Well, if you come to some parts of town, again, I just came from visiting the ghetto, but I grew up on the other side of town. I lived in the ghetto when I was a kid, but when I got older, and certainly since then, I moved out. And just seeing, again, how one side of town preys on the other, let alone the literal ways that one side of town, the wealthier sides of town, prey on the poorer sides of town, as far as even just outsourcing their jobs, outsourcing their pollution, outsourcing their cellular towers, the factories that create smog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All those things that we talk about. What's Obama doing for black people? He's empowering the EPA. What's Obama doing for black people? He's empowering Eric Holder. What's Obama doing, for black people? But all these things are for the poorest people. So when he says he casts a wide net, you better stand back and watch, because if you know how to fish, he's doing something quite major. But that example is that my cousin likes Too Short, and, his life is very disempowered. He's been stabbed, shot. He lives by the sword on the streets. And, he has a gold grill and all that stuff. And that's the life that he leads for himself. And while I'm pursuing education, the rest of us are teaching and education, that kind of thing like that was our route out of the ghetto. You even look at the music that we consume, the images that we consume. My cousin liked that. He became that. The dominant culture paves a way for him. There are prisons for him. When he acted out in school, there was an entire system of, criminalizing him, demonizing him. But, when I was good in school, I was fortunate. I went to a really good school because my parents put me in a good school. But other kids who were good in school, other black boys who were good in school, what happens to them? Or what happens when they act out because they're bored in class? They get criminalized, or do they get told, well, he might be a genius, and tested? That's the difference. And it starts as early as that age. There are resources for the thug. There are, there's a dominant culture that looks for the thug everywhere. The policing, the tough on crime, the so-called inner city, lingo, helping the other, all this about the thug. But what about the guy who wants to pursue education, or wants to pursue, starting a business and wants to be an entrepreneur? What about all the different sorts of people? What about the person who just wants a decent job where he doesn't have to worry about being exploited? What about that person? No, that person doesn't exist. When you look at the movies even, he's either a cop or a robber, cowboy or an Indian. What about the people on the homestead who are holding it down? There's not a lot of images in our popular imagination that reflect that. So naturally, when someone like Barack Obama, or heck, even someone like Colin Powell came along, they were like, oh my God, he's so articulate. As if there weren't black people who could speak standard English on stage and woo you. So naturally, when someone like Barack Obama comes along, people actually just don't know how to take him. They're not used to him. They find it threatening, uncomfortable. It's different. It's outside of the norm. It's outside of the standard. But you know, he was a trailblazer. He was a these thugs are not trailblazers. Barack Obama was a leader. Some of these thugs are leaders. Barack Obama was, I mean, all these things that even just as one high achieving black person that he is, extremely high achieving, obviously, um, just his presence is very threatening, as you see in the reaction to him. And so think about that when you're looking and you licking your lips over Nicki Minaj's apple bottom booty, or you're hard and hot and excited over 50 Cent's rippling prison muscles. Think about what you're consuming. You're consuming the demise of not just black people, but it is a moral decay. It's one that festers. If you're able to dehumanize and others, certainly you're able to dehumanize those nearer and closer to you, and that's why the emphasis on racism and patriarchy together are really important. That you understand, that we understand that the way of dehumanizing these others is also one that we mimic in our everyday lives, and then we even construct a logic system, a hierarchy that says that somebody's up there, we're here, and so on and so forth. There is no equality. We don't actually fundamentally believe in equality if that is the way that we, hear Jesus' message, you know. So, apple bottom booty and all. Hi, Havana.